everyone. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. We're excited to dive in and let everyone know about what a concierge utility is and show you guys the benefits of outsourcing one. I am joined by our CEO, Dave March of Exergy Energy. So before we get started, though, just to let you guys know, we are being recorded. So if that is an issue for you, feel free to hop off and we can go and get the information to you another way. But to get things started, Dave, I'll kind of let you give a background of yourself, and then I have a couple questions for you.
Well, as you can tell by my extensive gray hair, which is now getting closer and closer to silver and white, I think. I've been in the energy space for about the last 10 or 15 years. My actual background is I'm a chemical engineer, a master's in quantitative finance, and most of my focus has been, I'm sort of a productivity addict, right? Is how do you make things better? And did a lot in process and system optimizations and things like that. Used to run global manufacturing. And so my heart and soul is in the commercial and industrial space and the challenges that managers and executives have in that space. That's really the foundation of where Exergy came from. But I'll let you start with your question.
Yeah, awesome. So I guess before we get into the details of what a concierge utility is and why someone would need one, I'm curious if you can elaborate on what problem you were trying to solve that led you to create a concierge utility.
Yeah, it was a little bit almost like a eureka moment in a sense. So there was a company I started, the precursor to Exergy, called Entropy. And we were a developer, builder, manager, operator of utility scale renewable projects. We did 425 megawatts of utility scale, mostly solar, but we did anaerobic digestion. We did a whole variety of things. But it was focused on utility scale. And we were owned by a hedge fund at that time. And that was fantastic. It was great people, lots of capital and things like that. But the margin, the profit return requirements were quite high to be as part of a hedge fund. And you know what? In the early days, that was fine. There was a lot of ways to make a lot of money in utility scale renewables. But the market became more and more efficient. And we just literally couldn't keep the kinds of margins or returns on investment required by the hedge fund. So we sort of wound that down and went looking for, okay, where are the untapped markets, especially in solar? And now I'm going to be like preaching to the choir in a sense. So like so many others, we looked at the commercial and industrial space and said, okay, you know, commercial and industrial users, rooftop solar, it'd be great. So we focused in Entropy on developing that market. And it became clear to us as we're out talking with executives on, you know, energy and solar and all of this, that they weren't being serviced well by the energy providers, the utilities. They were just getting inundated with all kinds of requests from developers, and energy, while it's important, isn't a mainstay of their business. For most industrial manufacturers in the United States, the energy content of their product, cost of goods sold, let's say, is typically under 5%. So even though you might be able to save them, you know, 10, 15% or something, it's not a big needle mover, but it is a huge time sink in many cases like that. So we kind of looked at this and we said, you know what? The market is not doing justice to the commercial and industrial space as it relates to energy. And even worse, in my opinion, in many ways, the electric utilities are taking advantage of the commercial and industrial users. And the commercial and industrial users are really helping to subsidize the residential space. So we sort of stood back and said, you know what? Markets are complex, et cetera, et cetera. They need an advocate. They need somebody to help them. That's why we created a concierge utility. The reality being is a concierge utility works for you. Right. Doesn't work for the utility.
Right. It definitely fills a gap in the market, I would say, in terms of giving people a single point source to ask questions, do their energy procurement, and so forth. And I know that Exergy, that we've coined and trademarked the term concierge utility. So I guess you want to kind of do a deeper dive into exactly, what a concierge utility is and how we service our clients.
Yeah, as I think, as Euripides once said, man is blind until given a metaphor that permits him to see. So let me do it as a sort of an analogy here. A concierge utility is similar to, and I hate to say it, an attorney, or better, maybe an ambassador. Somebody that stands between your organization and, in this case, the energy markets. I'm going to say energy markets in a much broader context. They are experts in energy markets and represent your needs and finding the best solutions for you across all of the different domains that are out there. So it's, like I said, it's kind of an ambassador or an attorney. We have your best interests. We understand your needs, understand your goals, your sustainability, resiliency, and everything else. And then we are agnostic to what are the things in the energy market that will work best for you. We're not trying to sell you A, B, C, or D or anything else. We're a concierge. We're out there as experts finding the best solutions for you and bringing them to you, and then also providing you the capital to provide these energy services, products, and things to you at no upfront cost whatsoever. So we stand between you and what I'm going to call the complex energy markets.
Right, definitely. I always, think of us as a liaison, which I know is pretty much the same thing, but just kind of being that middleman, giving people that ability to make decisions where they're not under pressure or feel like they're making decisions where they have no idea what
Yeah,
they're.
I want to stop you for a
decision
second, if
about.
I can, on middleman, right? So a middleman is typically marking something up. In our
Right, true.
we represent the customer, and we do that on a shared savings basis, meaning is you don't pay us up front. We put the right solutions together for you, and we only make money if you're making money and we're meeting your objectives and goals.
Definitely. And I think that's something important to for people to understand, that we're here to serve the client, help them put money back in their pocket, and doing so at no upfront capex, which I feel as though is very rare in the market. And there's so many alternatives and opportunities out there for companies to save energy and reduce their carbon footprint. But I feel as though Exergy stands out because I feel like there's a need specifically for a concierge utility, and that's where we really stand out, because we encompass everything that maybe other companies don't service, or I guess capture, in terms of their.
Yeah, and let me speak directly to executives and managers out there as it relates to energy. Time is our most valuable asset, and we want to spend that time in the furtherance and growth of our business. Energy is an essential piece, but it's not strategically important to us. And the problem is, there is so much focus on energy today, and executives and managers are just getting inundated every day by phone calls, developers, emails saying, hey, you should be considering this energy investment. Oh, you should be considering battery. Oh, you should be considering solar. Oh, you should be. And it's like, they're not energy experts. So they have all of this stuff coming in and saying, how do I prioritize? What's best for me? What's best? And they don't necessarily know. And then there's sort of like a really nasty little problem is, if you make one decision, it changes how you would make other decisions in energy as well, because you change your consumption pattern, or you enter a contract this way and then you want to do something else, and that contract gets in the way, and you can't harvest as much value in things as possible. So I feel sorry for them. That's why it's a concierge. I mean, it's the same as you go to a hotel. You're in a new city, you don't know anything, so you go to the concierge and say, what's a great I need a great restaurant, or I need tickets to a play or something. Please help me. That's what we do. We help them to navigate and stand, as you said, that intermediary between the thousands of different inputs that are coming into them from developers, from consultants, from everybody else. And we digest it all and say, for your situation, for your goals, what you're trying to achieve, this is the best thing to do. So again, one of the reasons for a concierge utility is because the market is so complex. It's moving so rapidly, and there's just so many pieces of influence and data and things like that. Nobody, no executive has the time, nor could they justify taking the time to become sufficiently facile and intelligent in it to make good decisions. But at the same time, they can hire a consultant, and the consultant will make recommendations and everything else, but the consultant isn't going to put their reputation on the line, and they're going to get paid regardless of whether the execution is successful or not. We don't. We are responsible for the execution, the savings, and we only make money if the customer makes money.
And I think, we mentioned a lot, going back to the saving money aspect. I'm sure that that's something that people hear, thrown around a lot wherever you go, and whatever market you're a customer in, is that, oh, we can save you money, so forth. But with Exergy, that really is the case, that we really do save our customers money. And so I was wondering if you could kind of dive deeper into that part of it, how we save our customers money, and why that's one of our main goals. Why it's, obviously it's important to save money. You can put that back into your business expenses to improve the company elsewhere. But why, I think it's hard for maybe a customer to believe that we would care that much about saving them money.
Well, anytime a market is as big and complex, and you have so many different influences and opportunities, it's going to tend to be inefficient. So let me take just a couple of examples. So one example is, you need to buy energy, you need to buy electricity for your plant. You could go to just the utility and say, hey, put me on the standard tariff. Okay, you're going to pay X. You could go to a broker and say, hey, get me a better deal, and he'll get you a better deal. But really, if you want to do it right, you study the customer's load. How do they use electricity? When do they use electricity? And understanding the market pricing, and you put them into different types of contracts. So rather than just having a standard tariff, which is going to be, plus or minus 100%, you can energy wise, you'd say, you know what, I'm a manufacturing site. I run 24/5, my load is this. We can go out for you and buy something like a block contract that says, yes, we're going to take this block. You can be sure of it, et cetera, et cetera. And you can get a substantial discount for that. The other thing is, a lot of, I'm going to say, energy brokers and things like that have their go-to guys. And I don't mean that in any sort of gender specific way, but it's like, oh, I've got a customer, they're looking for a good deal. Hey, what's a good deal? And they'll go out to their people and they'll mark it up, et cetera, et cetera. We literally run auctions where we will take the load, we'll get it in a nice digestible form, and then we'll get the major, up to 30 to 40 major energy suppliers to bid for your business. And then we don't add anything to that, okay? We only make money if you make money, right? So we're not adding on or something like that. So energy procurement is one area where you can save money. Another one is in areas of resiliency. And I hate to, you're in Nashville, I think. No, you're in Birmingham, Alabama, right? So it's probably hot and everything else. We don't really need to talk too much about what was happening to the grid this summer. However, everybody's really concerned about outages, brownouts, things like that, and are looking at like backup generators. And here's part of the problem of why there's just so many influences. So, the head of production comes to you and says, hey, we can't go down. If we have a brownout, we got this, these complex machines, et cetera, et cetera. We need a backup generator. So somebody picks up the phone, calls the electrical contractor and says, hey, we need a backup generator. And lo and behold, they buy a backup generator and it comes.
Mhm.
If you had a concierge utility in there, they would do things differently. They'd say, we understand you need a backup generator, but given your load profile, given where you are and the types of electrical contracts we could put in place for you, we're going to use that backup generator for you to generate additional profit. So we'll use it for things like demand response, emergency demand response, block sale arbitrage, and all things. And literally depending upon where you're located in the country, that generator could be a profit center, not a cost, literally a profit center, paying, net into your pocket rather than out of your pocket. But you have to know that ahead of time, because if you just bought the backup generators are labeled and it says emergency only, which means you can't use it for peak shaving. You can't use it for demand response and things like that. To get one that is not emergency only is not much more expensive, but it could give you 10 times the return. So there's an area where there's some substantial savings that are available as well. And then lastly, just on resources. And what I mean by resources, I mean people. And you just had a webinar last week, I believe, on LL97. For the audience who don't know
Yeah.
what LL97 is, New York City has promulgated regulations that stipulate a carbon footprint or an energy intensity for any building for most buildings over 25,000 square feet. And there's penalties if you miss it and things like that. Well, like anything that's governmental, and I don't mean this in any negative way, there's a lot of filings, there's reports that have to be, there's submissions and everything else that are complicated. Calculations are complicated, and you're running a business, okay? Putting together energy intensity reports, carbon and greenhouse gas emission reports and stuff, not one of your main items that you do in your business. We'll take that, we do that responsibility for you because we have all your energy data. We have all your building data. It's all automated. It's all managed and, programmatically and things like that. So we can also save people a lot of time. So there's tremendous ways of working with a concierge utility that it's going to make your life easier, less risky, and save you money at the same time.
Which I really think is important to point out to people, because I feel like it's not until someone gets into the nitty gritty of trying to put together a report or trying to figure out how to meet some benchmark that they're like, I have no idea how to do this. And then they're spending exorbitant amounts of money.
And the other piece being is, and like most of these things, there's fabulous tools out there, absolutely fabulous tools for, forecasting your energy intensity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Not your business. So the tools are fabulous, but it'll take you hours or days or something to learn the tool to use it. And then you're not going to use it for another 6 months, at which point you're going to use it again. And then it's going to go, I don't remember how to use this. I got hours and days to relearn it. Let your concierge utility do that, because we do it every day. We have experts and specialists in those areas. Save you the time and the hassle there.
Exactly. And I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I think that's one of the great things about Exergy, especially, is that we have a wheelhouse of services. We're not just tied into any niche part of the market. And, we touched on energy procurement. I wrote down a list of the services that Exergy provides. And so energy procurement is one of those. We also provide people backup as a service, which we've touched on a little bit. Electrification and energy efficiency, decarbonization, and then our Energy Star reporting and management system, which I think is really unique to the market. But, I guess especially with backup as a service, I wanted to do a deeper dive. We've recently introduced Life Secure, Facility Secure, Generator Shield, and Backup Bank. So I just wanted to touch on those with you a little bit, and let people know about those services. we're constantly updating what we're providing people, which I think is also really unique.
Yes,
The more that
I'm going to get on my anti-Henry Ford thing, right? Which was you can have any color as long as it's black. A concierge utility, our focus is to create programs, products, and things that meet the specific needs of the customers. It's not a one size fits all. We're a concierge, right? So we're going to customize things. So in the areas of resiliency, backup generators, we touch on a little bit is getting the right one to start, right? That's going to make you money and things like that. But they have different roles as well. So let's first start with what's happening in the marketplace, or I should say with the grid. The grid is under increasing strain, and you've seen this throughout the summer, not only in prices, but alerts and warnings from almost every grid in the United States saying, hey, it's a really, really hot day. It's really bad. Please turn your air conditioning, temperature up. Please conserve or something. We don't have enough capacity. If we don't get people to participate, boom, 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 we're going to have to start browning you out, shutting your power off and things like that. What's causing it? Climate change, right? Is it going to get any better? Highly unlikely, right? So now let's think of it from the perspective of, okay, I need to be able to keep running. So I really do need backup power. But why do I need Why do I need backup power? So we have a product called Life Secure. It means exactly what it says, life. If you have life-saving facilities, so think of hospitals, nursing homes, outpatient clinics and things like that, where people's lives depend on having having backup generation, or they depend on having electricity, they have to have backup generators. That sounds fine. Well, all sounds great. However, in order to be compliant with your certification as a healthcare facility and stuff like that, you have to have certain maintenance procedures, maintenance records. You need to file forms, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's a hassle. Okay. And the maintenance is really important, right? Because if the generator doesn't start because it hasn't been well maintained, not only are you not compliant, all of a sudden there's an electrical outage, your generator doesn't work, it's 100 degrees and it's a nursing home. You've now put people at, literally at risk on a life basis type of thing. So go with the experts, us. So we'll put in the right generators. We'll handle all of the maintenance, the compliance, the regulatory filings, and all that. And just think of a nursing home company. And what I mean by that is they may own 40 or 50 different nursing homes. Each one of those probably needs a backup generator. Each one of those is going to have a facility manager. Each one of those is going to have maintenance and compliance reporting and everything else. So now I have 50 different people having to do the same thing at each site because it could be specific to the state, the site, et cetera, et cetera. We take all of that burden off you. The other, so that's Life Secure for life safety things. Then there's Facility Secure. Now, Facility Secure is a great sort of build off from Life Secure. Life Secure is the things that are called your critical life loads. So, like ventilators and things like that, right? But if you think about something, and I like to use the example of a nursing home. Let's think about a nursing home. The residents are aged, there are some infirm, and now you're talking about 100, 110 degree weather or something. Air conditioning has now got to be considered a life safety critical system. We know that from, Florida a couple of years ago where, a dozen people died from heat exhaustion and things like that. So you need to start looking at it from the perspective of it's not just those critical systems, that more and more is becoming important that we provide backup power. So that's where Facility Secure comes in. Facility Secure is we'll make sure that your entire operation continues to run without compromise. So, it's not like, oh, the power went out. Yeah, we've got our Life Secure stuff, but cafeteria doesn't work, air conditioning doesn't work. Or from a manufacturer's perspective, those critical systems might just be the fire pumps, the exit lighting and things like that, their production shut down. All right.
Mm-hmm.
No, they want to keep running. So that's what facility secure is. So facility secure is that full service. The entire facility needs to keep running. Now, sorry, go ahead.
No, I just it popped into my head when you mentioned the nursing homes. I wanted to mention, because I always think it's really important / not cool, but just highlights the importance of life secure and facility secure. That one nursing home that we worked with, where the owner said, if the power goes out, we have to take people to the hospital and call their loved ones and say, because they can't fit everyone into the one room where their generator is able to power that one room, which
Exactly.
I feel like a lot of people don't realize, is that they think, oh, I already have a generator, but they don't realize it's not a full facility.
No, you're absolutely correct. Let me, what do you do if the power goes out? We take all the residents, we put them in a single room because that's the only room that we can maintain. Okay, you know what? Maybe that's fine for an hour or two. But if if it's going to be a longer thing, what are they going to do? Sleep there? How are you going to?
Right.
So you're right. I remember that conversation with that owner. He said, if the power goes out, we call 911.
Right.
Having
Yeah.
ambulances arrive. Just think of the disruption and things like that. So that's where full facility secure really comes in.
Definitely.
And now you mentioned two others. Backup bank. So we are backup experts. We know how to do we know how to get the best deal, the right equipment, the right programs and things like that. And everything we do, there's no upfront cost to the customer, right? However, some locations, all they need is a backup for life safety. They can't participate in grid services or things like that, which is how we make our money. We make money when you make money. But we know we have the access to the capital. We know backup generators better than anybody else, et cetera, et cetera. So backup bank is just a financing program for people that need just a backup generator, don't want to put the money up front, don't want to put it on their balance sheet. So literally it is backup as a service, but it's really not focused on all the other services we can provide, like demand response and things, because it's not applicable. It's a lower cost. But again, if you need a backup generator, you're not going to do better than backup bank for a financing alternative to that. And then lastly, Generator Shield. While we are super motivated to move customers to natural gas backup generators for reasons of emission-wise, 8 times less, maintenance is less, and you can participate in grid programs like demand response and things like that. We prefer people to go with, obviously, natural gas generators. However, diesel generators have an amazing long lifetime because most diesel engines were literally built to run 1 million miles. Okay. So if you take 1 million miles and divide it by something like, whatever it is, 55 miles per hour or something, it'll tell you how many hours you can run these engines. Well, on a backup generator, you're not running them that many. You're running them maybe 300-400 hours a year tops if it's just backup. So you do that and you'd say, you know what, this diesel engine could probably last me 40 years or something, right? So I have a diesel generator, great tier 1 diesel generator. It may only have a few hundred hours on it or several hundred hours out of 1 million, out of 20, 30, 40,000 that they can run. So it's maybe 10, 15 years old, and it's becoming increasingly difficult to maintain and expensive. Wait, I thought you said the engines run forever. The engines run forever. The generators run forever. It's the electronic controls. That's what changes so rapidly out there. I mean, we probably not as bad as it used to be, but we all change our phones every 3 years. We all change our computers and things because the newest one. Or, hey, I have to change it because My current one is no longer compatible with the software because it's been upgraded and it can't run. So many times these maintenance issues and things actually are related to not being able to find the parts to maintain the electronic side. So Generator Shield is a maintenance program where we keep those generator control systems, the electronics, up to date on a continuous basis. And so that your generator can get the maximum lifetime. Now, they've already paid for it, right? But you don't want somebody saying, well, you should replace this because we can't maintain it anymore. We can do that for you and replace those electronic components and things like that. So you have essentially breathing new life into an asset that you already have. Return on investment on that is fantastic. They're easier to maintain because, you know, older generators didn't have, you know, Internet of Things and real-time monitoring, all those things that we can add to it and things like that. In many cases, you'll save money compared to what you're currently spending on maintenance.
Right. I always kind of think of it, it almost reminds me of my car. For example, I drive a Volkswagen, so European. So anytime I have to go get something fixed, I always have to wait months or however long for them to find the part. And by that point, I'm like, I forget to get it fixed. And then something happens to my car
and
and I'm
make
like,
it worse, right?
even
Yeah.
more money. Yeah.
Now, this is worse. In this worst case, let's say it's a life safety thing and it doesn't start, or
Yeah.
something like that. And all of a sudden, you literally have people's lives at risk. And I mean, a great
Exactly.
example of this was Superstorm Sandy. Superstorm Sandy, 63% of the backup generators in place during Superstorm Sandy failed to run. They weren't maintained properly, et cetera, et cetera.
Crazy.
Just think how, you know, just the situation there, and it's just getting worse all the time.
Yeah, that's wild. I did not know that. It's hard to wrap your mind around that, you know, you could have that such high percentage of failure
Yeah.
for such an important event that people rely on. I don't think people realize that either, that if you're not maintaining your generator or your backup power or, you know, just your energy efficiency in general, that when these things come up, it's not something that you can scramble to fix at the last minute and know that it's going to work.
When the grid goes out, all bets are off because you're not going to find the wires are down and things. You're going to find an electrician to come and service your generator. Unlikely.
Right.
Oh, let's go rent one temporarily. No, they've all been taken.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, but one thing I want to mention, we've been talking a lot about the electrical side of this.
Mm-hmm.
A concierge utility handles your utilities. So it's going to be electricity, your fuel, natural gas, water, things like that. And the reason that's important is energy has really, really changed in sort of the context of business. Energy was a factor of production. It was the same as a raw material or something like that. Energy is now becoming strategic. And, you know, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, at a board of directors meeting, people didn't talk about, hey, what's your carbon footprint? What's your energy intensity? Now it's important. So ESG goals, all of these things have moved energy into sort of like front and center, yet it's not strategic to your business, but it's strategic to the value of your business as it relates to investors and things like that. So businesses now, and we, you know, again, we work with all of them. We'll set goals. We're going to be zero carbon by 2040 or 2050 or something like that. Fantastic. And they got ESG goals, and they, you know, and then they publish the things they're doing. Like, we did this energy efficiency, we did this solar thing. Cool. They got 10% of the way there to their zero carbon. Great. Then you say, okay, how are you going to get the rest of the way there? We have no idea. We have no idea how to decarbonize. We have no idea. That's where you need, again, a concierge utility to work with you to map out the path and provide the capital and the expertise in order to do it. And that influences everything. I relay a quick story. We were with a very, very big company the other day and talking about their decarbonization. And they have stated, I mean, I was in their lobby, right, the corporate office, and there's huge big screen TV. Every 15 seconds, it says, "We commit to be zero carbon by 2040." And so we're meeting with the heads of energy. And we're talking about electricity, and it's like, well, we're not too worried about electricity because the grid has its own sort of trajectory to get to zero carbon, right? So we can play off of that, and all we have to do is manage the difference in timing between the grid and all that. I go, man, that's fantastic. You're also a big, big natural gas user, right?
Mhm.
Lots of steam and things like that. How are you going to address that? And they would go, no idea. Absolutely no idea. There's
Just
where
in the
we can
dark.
help. Okay, that comes into the other services that we provide, and decarbonization, electrification. How do you take your steam usage and make it sustainable but cost effective? Most people, they think about like, oh, I got all the steam, I could go to electric boilers, but my gosh, that's so expensive, et cetera, et cetera. There's technologies out there. You may never know those technologies because it's not part of your business. We're the experts in energy. So we'll come to you and say, okay, we can decarbonize your steam process and literally save you money. And people go, that's impossible. No, it's not. Okay. But you have to do it in concert with the other things. So if I'm going to electrify your steam, that changes my load. That changes my load. That changes my block contracting. Depending upon how I do that electrification, I can use that electrification for demand response and supporting the grid and, a whole host of things. That's why we exist.
So just to recap for myself and the audience, just from what we've discussed so far, Exergy stands out as a concierge utility, mainly being that we are the only people or only company in the market that can consider themselves a concierge utility. It's unique to Exergy. Our complete wheelhouse of services is also very unique to Exergy, and we help fill a gap that you would need to outsource 4 or 5 companies, to help you get the same thing done, that you can come to Exergy and we'll do it all for you. Is there, anything specifically important, or I guess the most important to you, that you want to get through to the audience, that you really want to, have them think about afterwards, and in terms of, even if maybe they're not ready right now to utilize a concierge utility, getting ahead of the curve, or
Great question. So 2 pieces. First one is our tagline is concierge utility, but
right.
under that, it's power that works for you. And that's what I want to stress. We work for you. We're not your consultants. You don't pay us up front. We manage your energy for you to get you the best deals, best savings. And that's the only way in which we make money, is by helping you do that. There's no upfront obligation, et cetera, et cetera. What I would suggest, because we handle so many different services, is contact us and say, hey, what could you do for us? Let's have a conversation. We might, you may not be interested in backup power. You may not be interested in electrification of steam or any of those things, but you might say, hey, could you do a better deal for us on, let's say, energy procurement? Sure, talk to us. Like I said, we can give you indicative pricing, like over the phone. We could say, hey, let's get your data. We'll run an auction for you, show you what you can save there. And then more importantly, because energy is becoming such a focus, such a strategic dimension of the board and things like that, part of our services is to get you on, set up, maintain, and manage an Energy Star account and portfolio manager for you, so that you can literally go online and see what is if it's applicable, what's my Energy Star rating? How am I doing with regard to my energy intensity? All of the feeds from electricity and gas and water all feed into that, automatically all of your buildings, so you can look at it and say, how does this site compare to that site, and all of that. We set all that up for you as well. So there's immediate value with almost no expense to become
Exactly.
part of the family. I'll do it that way.
Exactly. And, I know we're probably throwing a lot of information at you guys that you might not be able to remember all at once. So that's why I would love to direct anyone to our website, exergyenergy.com. All of the services that we've mentioned, we've gone and uploaded in detail brochures that you can print and download or share to whoever. Have in your back pocket, so that way you can be up to date on what's going on in the energy market and how we're addressing the solution, and just kind of keep in touch with us. And even if it's just a question about something, we're always happy to answer it. We have a ton of experts on our team that have very deep industry expertise, which I also think is very special about Exergy. And we're excited to help people, which I really like. We're genuinely here to help people navigate the energy market, because it's the only way that as a country, globally, that we'll be able to meet our goals that we have for the environment, for our energy efficiency.
Yeah, if we're talking the Paris goals, we already blew past those anyway. But let me finish it with something. This particular interview, I've been doing a lot of selling, and rah rah rah, Exergy, and everything else.
Right.
Chloe runs a weekly LinkedIn live event where we call it All Things Energy. Highly recommend you guys, I guess, subscribe to it or come. She interviews people in the industry, not just, myself, but people in the industry who have unique solutions and things, just to make you aware of what is available. So last week it was on LL97, and she had 2 executives on from companies in New York City that help buildings become compliant and things like that. Tremendous amount you could learn. We had the executive team on from a company that does ice thermal storage. We had a company on that does, steam electrification and other. Our goal is to provide as much value to everyone in the energy space. We just think it's sort of a civic duty. We all are in this together with respect to climate change, energy, and things like that. So we had a great panel on the hydrogen economy. When is it coming? What to expect? EVs, things like that. Please join us. This one's much more of a salesy one. Most of them are really just about helping you understand what's going in the market. Chloe, thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you. I really appreciate your time. And like I said, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions or would like the recording of this video, and I'd be happy to get it over to you guys.
Thank you. Everybody have a great evening. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.